The pharmaceutical industry is changing fast. Today, a company can develop a product, control commercialization, oversee supply chain strategy, and distribute products nationally without operating a single manufacturing facility or warehouse of its own. Virtual pharmaceutical companies have transformed the industry. But while business models have evolved rapidly, state licensing frameworks are still trying to catch up. And that shift is creating major compliance challenges that regulatory teams can no longer afford to ignore. The modern virtual pharma model is built on flexibility. Companies rely on contract manufacturers, third-party logistics providers, and wholesale partners to handle physical operations, while the company itself maintains control over intellectual property, commercialization, and supply chain decisions. The benefits are obvious: lower overhead, faster market entry, greater scalability, and access to specialized expertise. For many emerging pharmaceutical companies, this model is not just attractive, it's essential to competing in today's market. But regulators are now taking a much closer look at who is actually controlling pharmaceutical commerce behind the scenes. Most state licensing laws were originally built around brick-and-mortar facilities. The traditional framework focused on who physically stored, shipped, or handled prescription drugs. But today's reality looks very different. Virtual entities may never physically possess product at all. Instead, CMOs and 3PLs manage manufacturing, storage, and distribution, while virtual companies direct the operational strategy remotely. That creates a major regulatory gap. The old categories of manufacturer and wholesaler no longer fit neatly into modern pharmaceutical operations, and states are beginning to rethink how these companies should be regulated. One of the clearest examples of this shift is happening in Illinois. The state has introduced legislation that would establish a formal licensing category for virtual wholesale distributors. What makes this significant is that companies could be required to obtain licensure even if they never physically touch the product. Regulators are increasingly focusing on operational control rather than physical possession. In other words, licensing obligations may now depend on who directs the commercial activity tied to prescription drugs, not simply who stores or ships them. For compliance teams, the risks are significant. Many companies built their licensing strategies years ago before regulators began scrutinizing virtual operations this closely. Since then, business models have evolved rapidly, but licensing assumptions often have not. That disconnect can lead to serious consequences: product launch delays, distribution interruptions, trading partner concerns, and potentially even disciplinary exposure. For companies operating nationally, the challenge becomes even more complicated because every state may interpret these structures differently. Right now, the regulatory landscape is fragmented. Some states are proactively updating their laws to specifically address virtual operations. Others are relying on older statutes while interpreting them more broadly to capture modern business models. And in many jurisdictions, there's little or no formal guidance at all. That means a structure that appears compliant today could face very different expectations tomorrow. The broader trend, however, is becoming increasingly clear. Regulators want greater visibility into who controls pharmaceutical supply chain activity, regardless of whether they physically handle the product. As regulatory expectations continue evolving, every virtual pharmaceutical company should be asking 3 critical questions. First, do our current licenses accurately reflect our actual operations? Second, how does each state classify our role? Are we viewed as a manufacturer, a wholesaler, or potentially both? And third, do our outsourced manufacturing and logistics arrangements create additional licensing obligations we may not have considered? These are no longer theoretical questions. They are becoming central compliance issues across the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical industry's transition toward virtual operations is accelerating. The companies best positioned for the future will be the ones that treat licensing as a dynamic, ongoing compliance strategy, not a static administrative task. As states continue redefining how virtual manufacturers and wholesalers are regulated, proactive compliance management will become an increasingly important competitive advantage. Now is the time to review your licensing posture, evaluate state-by-state obligations, and prepare for the regulatory shifts ahead. Visit pharmaregs.com to learn more.